Hej och välkomna till dagens sändning av Pressträff Direkt. Idag har vi på länk med oss Maha Energy, där vd Jonas Lindvall och finanschefen Andres Modarelli ska ta oss igenom resultatet för årets andra kvartal. Vi sänder live i Facebookgruppen Småbolagsjakten samt nyhetsbyrån Direkts YouTube-kanal. Som vanligt går det bra att ställa frågor under sändningen i kommentatorsfälten, så ska vi hantera dem under sändningen. Jonas, trots börsoro på grund av geopolitiska utspel är Maha Energy upp mot 4% på en stark rapport. Ta oss gärna igenom den.
Ja, tack Carlo, och tack alla investerare som har tagit tiden att tuna in oss här på YouTube. Vi sitter här i Calgary tillsammans med Andres Modarelli, och jag tänkte att vi ska gå igenom den här rapporten. Som du säger, den är stark. Den är faktiskt vår bästa rapport hittills, som man bortser från fjärde kvartalet förra året som hade nästan $13 miljoner i vad jag kallar för icke-riktiga pengar i resultatet. Vi hade alltså ett nettoresultat på $6,2 miljoner, trots att vår produktion var relativt svag gentemot vår plan. Som du nämnde så går det ju bra att ställa frågor via direkt i YouTube-kanalen där, och även om ni kan mejla det till Mats Jonsson också på like. Ja, det går bra. Jag tänkte vi börjar väl med siffrorna, så jag tänkte lämna över direkt till Andres Modarelli, och sen så efteråt så går jag igenom den operativa biten, och så lämnar vi alltid tid för frågor och svar på slutet. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Andres Modarelli here. So go ahead.
Thanks, Jonas, and thanks, Carlo, for having us today. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Andres Modarelli, and welcome to a new quarterly webcast. I'm really pleased to present a new quarter results to you. To get things going, let's direct our attention to slide number 4, please, where you will see a summary of our operational results highlights for this quarter and the past 4 quarters. These are expressed in thousands of US dollars, and also please note that any 2019 figures are subject to year-end audits. So another record quarter for Maha. As you can see, revenues were 14.1 for this quarter. This is 80% higher than the comparable quarter a year ago, and 20% higher than the most recent quarter. Basically, this is a result of our increasing production volumes. For the quarter, this quarter we averaged 2,739 BOPDs, and that's up 92% versus a year ago, and 3% from the most recent quarter. So this has been the highest production quarter, and what also influenced our revenues were our average selling prices in Brazil, which were down versus a year ago, but up 9% compared to the most recent quarter. We also had some inventory volume sold this quarter, which is also reflected in our revenue line. Further, we had operating netbacks of $43 per barrel. That's up 10% from the comparable period, but on a dollar value, this more than doubled than a year ago, and this is also up 8% versus the most recent quarter, which is in line with our higher realized prices. Next is EBITDA. We had a record EBITDA of 9.1 million, which was effectively 1.3 times higher than a year ago, and 20% higher than the most recent quarter. So we're really pleased about that. We also, well, last and not least, we had a record net result of 6.2 million, which is 2.3 times higher than the quarter a year ago and 45% higher than the most recent quarter. So again, overall, the higher revenues as a result of our growing production were the main contributors to these results. And this was our 7th profitable quarter. Not that I'm keeping count, but moving on, slide 5, where we present a summary of our balance sheet items. And again, as you can see, increasingly strong balance sheet figures with cash of 20.5, unrestricted cash of 20.5 million, which is almost $1 million higher than the most recent quarter. And this is considering, together with working capital, which has remained mostly unchanged. This is a reflection of the true financial health of the company, as these are after or all of our capital activity so far in the year, which is close to $14 million, and the payment of interest on our bond, which happened during this quarter. Other than that, well, total assets, as you can see, keep increasing, as same as our shareholder equity. So with that, we just to comment, there's a narrow bullet. It says first quarter. That should read as first half. Just to clarify that. So moving on, if we can go to slide number 6. So as I was referring to earlier, this was a record production quarter for Maha. This is almost doubling our production numbers from a year ago, and this is 10 times what it was 2 years ago. And following our acquisition and our successful drilling operations. Also here we show a small chart of how Brent has been behaving, and although it's been weaker in 2019, our production growth has been the main contributor to our record results. Following slide 7, where we show some key metrics that we keep track. We had a netback of $43.3 per barrel, which were higher as a result of higher Brent prices this quarter. And while the other metric that we keep track of is operating costs, these have come down on a unit basis or a per BOE basis, 55% from the comparable period a year ago, and or 15% versus the most recent quarter in US dollar terms. We are seeing a slight increase on a unit cost versus the most recent quarter, but that was mainly as a result of one-time expenses that took place this quarter. Again, the next one is to the lower right. It's our cash balances. Unrestricted cash balances remain high, and this is after all our capital activities and interest payments. Last and not least, slide number 8, we show our net results and how these have been increasing. This was a record quarter for Maha in terms of net results. If we exclude the non-recurring items that were booked in Q4 of last year, and once again underlying that the effect of our increased production has had on the growth of our net results. So with no further ado, I'll pass it back to Jonas.
Thank you. Thanks, Andres. So thanks for bringing us through the financial statements. I want to reiterate, it was a very strong quarter for us financially. The fact that we're keeping our cash balances were around the $20 million mark, despite also spending a lot of money on capital. As you know, through the entire year, we have been drilling and working wells over and bringing more production on a stream almost every day. So very intensive capital program, but yet our cash balances remain the same. So we have lots of powder left in the keg. So in terms of the bond repayment, so I think when we started looking at this about 2 years ago after taking the bond, it was very important, of course, that we organized a work program that would then deliver sufficient cash to repay the bond in the 4 years. And I think, yes, we've had some delays, primarily from the regulatory side, but we are in a situation where we have almost 2/3. Well, we have more than 2/3 of the bond repayment in cash, and that's before we see the big what I'd like to call the catch-up effect. So, without dwelling on our cash and our figures much more, let's go to the more fun part, which is the operational update. So first thing, run through real quickly is Tartaruga. Tartaruga has been fairly quiet for the last 6 months, the first 6 months of the year. In fact, we've only been producing Tartaruga for 4 of the last 8 months, which has contributed to our revision in our production forecast, which we released last Friday. If you look at this slide here, in essence, we only produced just over 7,000 barrels during the entire quarter of Q2 this year. Compare that to our July's full month production, where we're producing 7 TTG, as much as we can, and net to us it's just over 13,000 barrels. So we've essentially almost doubled our production in the last month compared to the entire quarter. So that is going to help us improve our production figures for the second half of the year. During the quarter, I should say just after the quarter's end, we did spud the 3D well on Tartaruga, and that is it's a delineation well that we intend to test some more of those 27 stacked sands. As you will recall, we only have tested and produced 4 out of those 27, and the objective here is to go back and test up to maybe 5 zones in this well. The purpose of that really is to ascertain exactly how much oil we have and then design the forward and future development plan for Tartaruga. A byproduct of this well will be that when it's finished, of course, we will place it on production. So therefore, we are expanding our facilities at Tartaruga. We have quite an ambitious program. The current facilities, they can handle about, we say, between 500 and 800 barrels of oil per day, and that is dependent on the gas that comes with the oil. We will increase that facility to about 2,500 barrels a day by the year end, and we are making great strides in bringing that equipment in. In fact, some of the equipment that have become free and available after the upgrade of the T field, we will bring across to the Tartaruga field. So we are making good use of all the equipment we have in the country. Okay, let's go to the T field. So another record quarter. We delivered over 220,000 barrels, and also a record in terms of gas delivered, 101 million cubic feet of gas. So gas has been one of our issues that we have to deal with. Obviously, with more oil, there's more gas, and because of flaring restrictions in Brazil, we are forced then to find customers for that gas. And we have been working hard together with CDGN and also a company called GTW, Gas to Wire, where we take the gas, we burn them in generators, and we sell electricity to the grid. Obviously, as you increase production, oil production, you have to also then, gas comes up, and therefore you have to sort of balance those two out and find an outlet for both your oil and gas. I have a slide detailing that a little bit more detail later. We did have some minor shutdowns during the quarter at the T field, some maintenance and refinery shutdowns. The refinery is really important to us. They have doubled their capacity in the last 6 months, and during that doubling of the capacity, they had to do some shutdowns in order to bring a second oven on. That is now complete. I have personally been out and inspected and seen the new equipment. They're chomping at the bit. They want more oil, and we want to deliver more oil to them, of course. They are held up currently by some final regulatory approvals for their refinery. They have received all the environmental permits. They're just waiting for one last regulatory approval. We expect that sometime in mid-September. Currently, I also want to clarify that we have signed offtake agreements for 4,100 barrels per day out of the T field. We have another 750 barrels coming. The agreement is, for all intents and purposes, agreed. And again, we are just waiting final regulatory approvals for the customer, being Petrobras, to receive that oil. That we were expecting that already a couple of weeks ago, and it should be any day where Petrobras is given the final approval to receive that 750 barrels of oil. We have done a trial run already to this receiving station with a large truck, so we know the whole system works. We know that the receiving station can accept, and we have a procedure for delivering that oil. So we're just waiting on one last final piece of paper. Last but not least, LAK. I had a question recently, what's happening with LAK? LAK is under monitoring right now. We did complete the 8-well drilling program late last year, and we received final water injection approval in May this year. A little bit of a delay there, and right now what we're doing is we're injecting water and watching the production and watching the response time there. I don't expect anything to happen in LAK for probably another 3 months, at which time we will provide further updates. So, a few pictures. I don't know if you can see this at home. What we have here is going in sort of clockwise fashion, starting in the top left-hand corner. Those are one of our generators. We have a total of 17 generators on site. The other pictures shows CDGN. They have upscaled their compression facilities. They've added another compressor. They used to be able to take about 30 to 35,000 cubic meters per day. Right now, as of yesterday, they were taking over 60. So that's coming along good. They were about 3 weeks behind schedule, but all in all, considering where we're operating, I think they've done a fantastic job on getting that compression on. More trucks are going, and recall that this gas is going to a ceramics factory and being burnt in a ceramics factory, creating obviously ceramics. Last but not least on these pictures I wanted to show is the progress of GTW. Now GTW is our other second gas customer. They, like I said, they have 17 gas generators on site, and the idea is to turn that into electricity. Right now it's going to 3 different places. We generate electricity for our own internal purposes. That takes care of 3 units. 4 units have been dedicated to CDGN to provide electricity to CDGN, and then we have 10 units that provides electricity to the grid. So all in all, a total of 17, and we should be able to burn up to 30,000 cubic meters per day. Currently the contracts are for 26, so we got 4 to spare. I'd like to called GTWR swing receiver. So the more we produce, the more they can take. And if we produce less, then they can take less, which is very important in order to balance both oil and gas production on the T field. Just to sort of show the complication of the system on the T field, there's been some frustrations expressed to me about the tardiness of bringing on production. And really, we are doing the best we can. We have a total of 2 oil customers that we send oil to 3 different places. And on the other side of the slide, you'll see where the gas goes. It goes to 2 customers, but they go actually to 4 different places. We have 3 times generators, and we have 1 compressor, compressed natural gas system in place. And that all has to be sort of balanced. Now, to give us further flexibility, we have 3 wells. If you recall, when we took over this asset, we only had 1 well. We was producing out of GT4. And right now we have 3 wells producing, and each well has 2 zones to produce from. So we can actually balance our gas and oil production from those 3 wells and total of 6 zones. The Sergi is a little bit more gassy than the Agua Grande, so therefore the idea is to balance all this up as and when the customers get more stable in their offtakes. So, before we go to questions, we do have a Penser Bank presentation on the 12th of September. I will be presenting there. And then we have our annual investor presentation on October the 9th in Stockholm. So, if you are in the neighborhood, you are more than welcome to attend. So, without further ado then, Carlo, do you have any questions for us?
Yes, Jonas and Anders, I have a lot of questions here. So I will start with financials, and I will try to bundle them together. It's mainly due to, well, the excellent position that the company is, and due to the cash flow, or free cash flow rather. Will you start paying dividend?
This is a reoccurring question, yes. And I made it very clear, I think, at the last webcast and the one before and the one before that. Right now, there are no plans for dividends. We are in growth mode, and we aim to take this company much further. So all our cash is going to be reinvested into the business for the foreseeable future.
And one of the follow-up questions to that, of course, would be, will there be any more acquisitions in the near-term future?
We are constantly looking at acquisitions. The market is a little bit strange. It's a little bit in between, I think. It's transitioning a little bit. So good deals are hard to find, but we are continuously looking. And if we're going to grow this company, then, and I've always talked about our 3-legged stool. Right now we have 1 very strong leg in Brazil. I'd like to develop 2 more strong legs. We have the beginning of a good leg in the United States, and the only way we can do that is through acquisition. So even though we have a great, and I really want to underscore that Tartaruga is a fantastic growth opportunity for us. You know, it's organic. It's something that we have developed ourselves, and it really is. It's really where our future is in Brazil. Of course, provided that we continue to get good results from this next well that we're currently drilling. But the quick answer to your question is yes, we are continuously looking for acquisitions.
And another financial question here is, what is the expected dilution when the time for the warrants exercise is over?
Right, so we're talking about TO number 2. There's a total of 13 million warrants outstanding. So if all are exercised, it will be roughly 13%.
Excellent. And if we then look at the different fields here, Tartaruga here, could you expand a little bit when it comes to gas? You mentioned the 2,000 barrels per day. And do you have any further comments on how you will expand that? And is there a connection to the oils and further on?
Right. So, like I said, Tartaruga is our growth opportunity in Brazil, and as I explained, gas goes hand in hand with oil. As we ramp up production of oil on Tartaruga, obviously we will have to take care of the gas. We have plans are far gone with respect to bringing GTW, the same company we have at the T field that generates electricity. The idea is to bring out 14 generators initially to Tartaruga and deliver the gas that way. That should bring us up to about 2,000 barrels of oil per day once all those generators are in place. We will do that in stages. We will expand that in stages. And if I can elaborate a little bit on that, you have an opportunity to, sort of invest as you grow, or then invest and then grow. So we've taken the former, which is we want to grow, and as we grow, we'll invest and take, do our investment that way, as opposed to spending a bunch of money up front and then delivering the gas and the oil in one big lump. So that is sort of the mode that we're operating in Tartaruga.
Okay, and then an even further detailed question here is regarding P4. When do you expect production, and would you be able to give us any volumes?
I cannot give you any volumes, but I can tell you this, that 7 TTG, you're referring to 7 TTG well, which is the current well that's producing on Tartaruga, which is, by the way, it's producing at plant capacity. So really, even if 107 was available to us, the other well on the field, we have nowhere to take it right now. Of course, we also have a drilling rig on site, so it's very tight, and so that poses their own challenges. But with respect to P4, right now, we're only producing out of P1 in 7 TTG. And that tested well above, almost twice more than what we had expected, which was very, very good news for us, of course. And it continues to basically fill our plant capacity. Now, we can do a few things to sort of de-bottleneck the plant, but like I said, we have a drilling rig there. It's very busy. And for the time being, the way it's scheduled is that we will de-bottleneck and bring 107 on production as soon as the drilling rig is finished on this 3D well. P4, it was perforated and has never been tested. So obviously, we are excited about P4. It shows very good oil pay on logs, but it's never been tested. And of course, we also have the old P6. P6 was producing about 250 barrels per day before we sort of temporarily plugged the P4 and P6. So great potential still to come out there. The answer is we don't need to perforate to open up the P4 or P6 at this point in time, because we have nowhere to take the oil. Later, once the facilities are upgraded and we have commissioned those, we'll take another look at that. That doesn't involve rig entry, or we cannot do that rigless, so we would have to bring in a small workover rig to do that. But that's minor details.
And would it be fair to say that if you could get more takers of the oil at Tia, you would be able to produce more oil?
Yes, we have three components here. The first component is well deliverability. Well, we have shown that the well deliverability at the T field is well over 6,000 barrels per day. That's through tests. The second component is the handling facility. So the T battery can handle today about 5,000 barrels per day. Now we can probably push that a little bit, but the design for this field is 5,000 barrels a day. We want to keep it at a plateau of 5,000 barrels a day. And the third component is the offtake agreements, the sales agreements. So right now we're looking at 4,850 barrels. If the refinery and Petrobras can take more, which they have indicated that perhaps depending on the circumstances they may, of course we will try to squeeze as much oil and gas as we can out of there. So the answer is of course we will.
Excellent. And as always with Maha, there are a lot of questions that are continuing to flow in, and you are more than welcome to direct them to the management. We will thank Jonas and Andres for this presentation, and we will hope to see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.